All right. We are back with harrowings from the bunker. And it's just a regular live. Nobody's here yet. I could add guests if anybody wants to show up. John Jason Z guest is here, in fact, as a viewer. I was hoping maybe add some little note pretty quick. Nothing on my mind to speak of except that we are in a situation with our government where this new House the government, it's supposed to, the House representatives and Senate seem to have abjured their waging war rights. Haven't been able to rein in the executive or are unwilling to do so. I'm kind of without words at just how cavalier we're being inserting force around the world, particularly in Iran right now. There are other issues going on in the world. Actually, Pakistan has invaded Afghanistan at some point. I don't have what's exciting to that. There's actually in India. I ran into an Afghan woman at the Amnesty International annual general meeting this past weekend. And she informed me of this. And I'm like, why don't I know this? How are we going to get the word out? Well, one thing is always get back to sources. Don't trust me. Do your own research. Another is that we just simply have to be the change we want to see in the world. My guess is that my friend Gabriella may not be able to join me just at the moment because it is kind of impromptu and my invitation is not getting a response. So I will go ahead and just cancel that. I won't have that distraction. I don't have a lot to say, actually, I think. I may be wrong about that because I quite often find myself just running my mouth ad nauseum. I've got a new mouse. I had a problem with my touchpad, and that's the way it goes. Um, so, yeah, I can't do two things at once very well. I was going to search for this person, and yeah, there it is. See y'all. Mhm. That's not it. I cannot figure things out as quickly as I'd like to. Heidi Blake is joined, though. Hi, Heidi. This is me, and I'm live and talking randomly about stuff. Particularly, I was talking about how I'm shocked at our country and the way in which it's been conducting itself in the world in general for the past 25 years now. It was 25 years ago, just about now, we were running up to the 9/11 event in March, as we are now, March 9th, 2026. We did not know what was coming. We didn't know the world was changing as dramatically as it did. We had recently put into power a president uh, after a contested election. You got to admit, it's interesting to think about what might be different if things had gone different, if the elections had turned out because of our electoral college system to actually reflect the will of the people versus what the electoral college decided, which was really as an echo of racism in a lot of ways. Having two Dakotas is actually just adding more senators, right? And more conservatives to the hassle of legislators. We have 100 senators and the House of Representatives being more population reflective. I don't know. I just know it seemed to me, and it seems to me that we could be doing better than we are. Nobody's saying anything. You make comments in the text there. With the group of messages, I welcome. Uh, if you want to come on live with me, you can indicate that. Please. This. mouse. That is one. I just went to the Apple store in Georgetown with this trip. Like, where are I can tell them sometime either. Where are you and how are you? Yes, there you go. Answer that in the chat. That'll give me something to talk about, something to chew on, so to speak. About you, we aren't us, or just me. Heck, just me is well, pretty obvious that I've got a lot on my mind. Let's see. I honestly do. So, I'm getting some texts from different people weighing in, and I didn't see some of these people around, but that's what it goes. Looks like Mo is coming this weekend. It's in my goseated.com thing. I want to delete that. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Let's see, delete that. And I hope that guy liked it. I just invited a bunch of people to a meeting I was attending, and you're there in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Well, I had no idea. You're a cheesehead, perhaps. I don't know if you're into football. I'm not. I was a Steelers fan, though, while I was in Pittsburgh, because you just can't live in Pittsburgh without being a Steelers fan. But you can't live in Green Bay without being a Packers fan. I don't follow football at all. Didn't watch the Super Bowl. Wasn't interested in the whole halftime thing either. Um, but you know, it irks me that we are homo economicus now. We are shaping the world. We are spending more than any other way that I can see the power that we exert. It is the power of the purse, and that we are enriching certain parts of the economy while impoverishing others. And there's hoarding going. Obviously, hoarding and wealth. My neighbors are tend to do that. I don't. I don't believe, although I've got enough to ensure that I won't die penniless even if I live into my 90s, and I'm going to have that managed better than I've been managing it just by neglect. My neglect is how I've been going about it. Hi, Saka. It's good to see you. I've been asking everybody to say, where are you and how are you? And so far, I've got a where are you answer. The how are you part has not been answered yet by our guests. So we have three guests. Jason Z guest, Heidi Blake. Heidi and I exchanged a little chat here and there. Isaka. Now we got Richard Hogan, and we have an answer of how are you? But Heidi, she's good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm pretty good myself, I think. I do have a new mouse, so I'm very happy to have that. And Richard Hogan, MD, PhD twice over, and Doctor of Business Administration. I finally know what that means. He's joined, I think, from Canada. Isn't that right, Richard? You can write into the messenger as well if you wish. I have opened it up to have guests come on live with me. Any one of you could be invited if you wish. It's really up to you. And we can have a little conversation about what lights you up inside as opposed to just listening to me do this extensive monologue. Um, are you going to take me up on that? Ottawa, good to see you, and how are you? How is this anyway? Where are you and how are you? I keep asking my guests that. I guess I sound old, but I'm not. I'm just glad to have people join. I had Zeno Xylon join not long back. Zeno Xylon is a facilities manager at some facility. I don't really know any details about it. I sometimes have Everyday Junglist join when it's available. Origin 752 has joined in the past, but I'm not seeing those guys right now. See if I can get raised Gabriella again. I'll invite her one more time, see what happens. Any of you all interested in getting in here live, doing a little podcast thing? Just talk stuff. I didn't really plan this well. I thought I could probably get Gabriella, but comments about getting back before. Oh, good here on Mike Bird. Uh, so he's been talking to me on chat, and I, I'm just flummoxed by the whole situation out there in government, uh, and the universe in general. Irritated, I'm disgruntled, taking action myself, but seems to not do much because I think most of us are asleep at the wheel. I'm happy, but oil prices shot up, right? But it doesn't get reflected in the pump. We're probably not going to have the backlash that's needed to keep people splattering other people, poisoning the environment, oil fires. It goes on and on. Just goes on and on. I did post something recently. I love your feedback on that. It was called Heroines of Living Life. And I'll just read it. Why don't I just read it? Because I got it right here in front of me and I can do that. Jamie is joined. Welcome, Jamie. Where are you and how are you? That's the question being asked of everybody. I'll put it in the chat again, and I hope I can get you guys to respond to that. Difficult to get used to the mouse spaces. Trackpad that no longer working because I spoke order on the keyboard. That's the other day. Where are you? Well, there we go. You say what you're doing. Any of those kind of nice journalistic questions that might be interesting. So the post started on Friday, and then I screwed the keyboard and posted. Airwings of Living Life in the First Century of the Third Millennium. That's by me, and published at 12:50 p.m. Largely good. And it has a photo of a image generated by Substack itself. So, and it's generated of Eris, the goddess of chaos, surveying the monitors of the bunker on a chilly March morning. Harrowing times require us to attempt to articulate our terror. What can it be but terrifying that we're mortal? May well have entertained ourselves to death, I feel. It is frightening to be here now, yet we are. Here now. We have an opportunity. It is the one life we get in this setting. Just 100 years ago, we were just beginning to get a sense of how vast creation actually is. I don't think we know just now even what an unusual occurrence we are. I zoom out to look on our planet from about a quarter of the way to the moon, and I think of what a beautiful instance of life in this vastness of the cosmos we have here. Do we appreciate it? I feel we do not. I feel we are all still myopic. I might be wrong about this feeling. I hope I am. And at that moment, when I was writing that on Friday morning, I was listening to Ritual, Nous sommes du soleil, We are the sun. And that's a little tune by Yes that spans the entire album side. I'm not going to bother reading the lyrics. I think I did read this part out already. In any case, here's how this and other food sides of Teo's topographic oceans came about. Jamie Muir, the innovative percussionist, best known for his brief but impactful stint with King Crimson, contributing to the 1973 album Larks, Stems, and Aspen, experienced a profound transformation after reading autobiography of a yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. The book, classic spiritual book detailing Yogananda's life and his encounters with gurus and teachings on Kriya Yoga, or is it Kriya or Kriya? I don't know, and meditation, triggered an intense emotional and spiritual reaction on the earth. This awakening played a key role in his decision to abruptly leave King Crimson shortly after the album's release and recording sessions. He felt compelled to abandon his music career, abandon singing and secular pursuits altogether. In his own words from the later interviews, he described experiences over several months that led him to the despite a full year of tours already planned. He prioritized this inner calling to avoid a deep, lifelong regret, even though it meant letting bandmates down. Departure was officially attributed to a personal injury with Krusty. Here clarified that this was not accurate. He simply had to follow his spiritual path. Immediately after the shift, Muir relocated to Scotland, joining a monastery where he pursued a monastic lifestyle for several years. This marked a complete pivot from avant garde improvisation and rock performance to dedicated spiritual practice. Interestingly, before heading north to the monastery, Muir attended Bill Bruford's wedding reception in early March 1973, and it was there that he had a significant conversation with yes, John Anderson, getting back to Dale's. And he was curious about what fueled Muir's extraordinary stage presence and energy. Muir recommended and essentially handed him the autobiography of the yogi, describing it as transformative. And Anderson later credited Muir as a messenger who changed his life by introducing him to the book at a pivotal moment. This directly inspired Anderson's deep dive into spiritual themes, leading to Yes's ambitious 1973 double album, Tales from Topographic Oceans, which drew heavily from the book's ideas, including a notable footnote that influenced its conceptual structure. We lost Jamie Muir recently. What our artist has given us, as well as remark, as footnote to footnote indicates, John Anderson was also inspired by Jacob Bernowski, as I've been as well. His Bernowski's The Ascent of Man series is one of my prized possessions. I immersed myself in this during that time. Bernowski starts that with man is a singular creature. He intones that at the beginning of the first episode. A heart attack took his life not long after the series was aired, and we stand in the shadow of our ancestors. We are the ancestors of all lives to come. We must pass on what was really passed to us. That is part of what heroin is attempting to do. And if not us, who? If not now, when? Still no more chatter from you guys? Anybody want to say anything? Messages are available to communicate with each other, which I recommend. The first episode of The Ascent of Man features Pink Floyd playing the piece Careful with the Sax, Eugene. I've edited that. And having watched that first episode again, I was struck by the erudition of Bernowski. It's what holds my attention, his manner of speaking to his audience, sit there quartering sleepily, although a glance at the man's biography would show how powerful and secure I am. I cannot speak for anyone else. And then Sir David Attenborough does a little talk about that on the BBC. I put that in there. And then my takeaway is that my species has lived through harrowing times. We are very fortunate not to have made ourselves extinct. We certainly have the capacity to do so. And I should say that Bernowski was at Hiroshima after the bomb fell. There was a team that went there to sort of assess the damage and what had the bomb could do. I'm sure that was a very stressful experience. He wraps up the whole thing with a visit to Auschwitz. I have more clips in here. I linked off to see him zooming in on the scene, one of my other um, posts, because I am just on the other side of the 30th anniversary of the pneumonia event that almost killed me. So I talked about that. And that one. I do mention here that we are here now, and it is a miracle that we are. We can love each other from the simple fact of our existence. If we are here, we have overcome the odds and can be the change we want to see in the world. We have an obligation to do so. We have a responsibility to all who come after us to help each other and not harm each other. Though I could go on and often do. However, let's return to Tales from Topographic Oceans. So I did. I threw in a link to the entire album and listened to it earlier today. I didn't finish it, but I listened to most of it today. But then I've got a quote from Joseph Campbell, who said, "The great German philosopher Schopenhauer, in a magnificent essay on the foundation of morality, treats of the transcendental spiritual experience. How is it, he asks, that an individual can so forget himself and his own safety that he will put himself and his life in jeopardy to save another from death and pain, as though that other's life were his own, that other's danger his own? Such a one then acts our actions out of an instinctive recognition of the truth that he and the other, in fact, are one. He has been moved not from the lesser secondary knowledge of himself as separate from others, but from an immediate experience of the greater, truer truth that we are all one in the ground of our being. Schopenhauer's name for this motivation is compassion or Mitleid, which means to suffer with. And he identifies it as the one and only inspiration of apparent and moral action. It is founded in his view in a metaphysically valid instinct. For a moment, one is selfless, boundless, boundless and selfless, without ego. Each of us is an iteration of that one spirit, that little divine spark that motivates us, that keeps us breathing in and out, maintain homeostasis in the body, separate from each other, but essentially one. This illusion of separateness that we're in, many of our sages have pointed that out, and we still don't get it most of the time. I was listening to my director of religious studies, um, or religious life on campus, Charles Haynes. Um, he was there in the 80s, talk about his life and context of being in his early life anyway, part of the circle of people around Mayor Baba, and how Mayor Baba took his face as a 13-year-old and shook it back and forth to sort of try to wake him up, apparently, to maybe that he didn't, really need to be so focused on Baba. You need to sort of see the rest of the world around him. I don't and Charles didn't even know. Now he's in his 70s and was giving this talk in May 24th, I think, 2005. So a little less than a year ago. It's findable out on YouTube. And I was watching it last night. It's pretty long, about almost 2 hours. Ad libbing his experience, which is very interesting to me. Well, we have talked a little bit about that excerpt, Joseph Campbell's Myths to Live By. That's the Joseph Campbell Foundation, 2011, March 11th, my book. I said that, I posted that 13 years ago. The main point being that we are all one in the ground of our being. To be selfless, boundless, without ego seems to me to be a worthy goal. And I'm reminded now of the work of Julia Casara, PhD, who is one of us. Um, yes, I'm going to just cancel. Hey, Baba Sana, how are you? Where are you? I let things people they log in here. Again, cancel that invite to and yeah. But in any case, I was mentioning that I was reminded of the work of Julia Casara, PhD. It's been my great good fortune to connect with Julia, hear and learn from her a concept of gnosis. Let's all try to band together in the awareness of our essential unity. And gnosis is that moment in which you transcend you realize you're really one with everything. There is no other. We are it. Thou art that. Joseph said, that's his picture. I can share it with everybody that exists, because I think if more people read it, it would be a good thing. Thou art that. First posthumous releases from Joseph Campbell Foundation. That gives me a little bit of hope, actually, the book length thing coming out, uh, getting it together to be able to produce it. Campbell himself died in the 80s. And so the entire 90s went by without these products coming out from that foundation. Union with the primordial is what I'm after. And where I am, if I really think about it, whether this is acknowledged by myself or others, So are you. If you are able to read what I'm writing, should I translate this? And I said, "I translated it in Danish." The Danish came up with the fact that when I said that, what I'm after, they used the word "søger" when I'm seeking. Now, I mentioned that the Danish translation of the paragraph about seeking emerges from the Danish, which reminds me of the fact that seeking is what we're doing as we move from birth to death. We're trying to figure out what the point is. That turns my thoughts back to my father. I put in a link to a short biography of that, which I might as well throw up and read, maybe. I'm grateful I was able to put books into his hands, and that was one of the books I put into his hands. And I think it made me think. Nothing here is really linear, and I've opened Wanowski to Terence Simon. Well, and it's also been 13 years since Terence Simon came to my attention at the Corporate Museum here of Art here in DC. The museum has now been fused with the National Gallery of Art. It seems to me to be a total loss. This, so I could go on reading that. Let's take a short yeah, it is. I think probably with some other maybe the biggest patients, them out, and just continue to try to amplify the signal through the noise because that's what we're doing here. We need to amplify signals through the noise, both of our art and culture, and our literature, music, but also the fact that we are moral creatures, we should be moral creatures who are as guilty as anybody else for the world we are co-creating. We are responsible. We are Homo economicus. Every cent we spend flows into systems that generate things like the death and destruction of other people, like the hideous kind of acts where someone will roll out a bomb into a crowd of people. This apparently happened once. It doesn't matter what side you're on. It's just we're all one species. What we do to anyone else is something we do to ourselves. And yet we don't seem to understand. Can't seem to grasp it and put it into action as a principle behind us. I don't know. I just know how it seems to me. I could be wrong. I'd love to get your perspectives. Come on and be a guest on Heroines and be a part of the change you want to see. Talk up these ideas and then go out there on the streets and take some action. I feel like what take some action today. For one thing, I'm hungry and I want to get some food. So, nothing else to say today. I already announced what's coming in and we'll wrap it up. Thank you for joining out here.